blind man was sitting on a busy street corner in the rush hour begging for money. On a cardboard sign next to an empty tin cup, he had written, "Blind, please help." No one was giving him any money. An advertising writer walked past and saw the blind man and his sign and empty cup, and that many people passed by completely unmoved, let alone stopping to give money. The advertising writer took a thick marker from his pocket, turned the cardboard sheet over, and rewrote the sign, then went on his way. Immediately, people began putting money into the tin cup. After a while, when the cup was overflowing, the blind man asked the stranger to tell him what the sign now said. "It says," said the stranger, "it's a beautiful day. You can see it. I cannot." Good morning. I'm glad I can see you. It is a beautiful day. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for that introduction, John. I'm humbled and grateful to have an opportunity to speak on something I'm extremely passionate about: education. Thank you, Dr. Coles, for inviting me. Dr. Coles, where are you? Yes, Mary told me I can talk as long as I want. I have been married for 28 years to the same woman. Do you know the last time I had an opportunity like this? To give an opinion that was mine. You heard the saying, "Let her rip." Finally, I have an opportunity to share them. Seriously, though, I'll only bore you for about 15 minutes. I'm sorry if I gave anyone a heart attack. Eye on the prize. That's what I'll talk about today. I'll address three things: power, peril, and promise. Education gives one power. So I'm going to talk about this school, Schreiner University. Peril, I'm going to talk about PMS. I'll share three stories that exemplify a life involving the physical, mental, and spiritual parts of our lives. And then the third thing I'll do is end with a story as I focus on promise. Earlier, I began with a story about a blind man. What I want you to get from that is, if you can't see it, you can't be it. Repeat that. If you can't see it, you can't be it. Good. I want you to realize and appreciate how beautiful today is, starting with being here at this great university. I Googled Schreiner University. I wanted to know about their mission, their vision, and what they value. Howard. Schreiner is a liberal arts institution committed to educating students holistically. Its mission is to provide a personalized, integrated education that prepares students for meaningful work in a changing global society. Their mission? Always holds student success as its first priority by equipping students from a variety of backgrounds and experiences to achieve, excel, and lead. What do they at Schreiner value? You. That's what they value. Schreiner holds sacred the Christian convictions that each student is valuable and unique, and they strive to empower every student to grow physically, intellectually, and spiritually. They value that higher education is instrumental in developing thoughtful, productive, and ethical citizens. That rocks. You feel me? My bad. Are you down with that? is what it is. The university wants the identity of learning by heart. Now that I understand. That to me means once I have the heart of it, I've got it. And you can't take that away from me. Like character. Former Congressman J.C. Watts defines character as people doing the right thing when no one is looking. People will constantly look at you, and what you do makes an impact. Like a book I often quote for my students, it's by Jerry Mills, Murder Behind Closed Doors. One of the principal characters tells the mother of an estranged daughter, a piece of paper, however civilized, cannot decide how we feel. Our feeling toward one another isn't something you can legislate. That's learning from the heart. He goes on. Someday there may be an act of Congress or a chamber decision that will get us to a place where people see people as people. Change will happen. It's inevitable. Does that make sense to you? Do you understand what your education means? Education gives you power. Getting your education is just part of the journey. Finish it. Learn that by heart. Steve Covey tells us to begin with the end in mind. Keep your eye on the prize. That's how I got my PhD. Even though I flunked my qualifying exams. My college professor told me, keep your eye on the prize. She encouraged me, telling me not to quit. I didn't. Neither should you. That's about Schreiner. Now let's talk about PMS. A perilous subject sometimes. Here's something to learn by heart. It involves understanding a new concept of PMS. View your life as an equilateral triangle composed of 3 connected sides. PMS. Not something that happens once a month, but happens continually throughout your life. It's a physical, mental, and spiritual part of your lives. I have 3 stories that personally personify these elements. You ever heard that adversity builds character? Well, in ancient times, a king had a boulder placed on a roadway. Then he hid himself and watched to see if anyone would remove the huge rock. Some of the king's wealthiest merchants and subjects came by and simply walked around it. Many loudly blamed the king for not keeping the roads clear, but none did anything about it. Then a peasant came along, carrying a load of vegetables. Approaching the boulder, the peasant laid down his burden and tried to move the stone to the side of the road. After much pushing and straining, he finally succeeded. After the peasant picked up his load of vegetables, he noticed a purse lying in the road where the boulder had been. The purse contained many gold coins and a note from the king indicating that the gold was for the person who removed the boulder from the roadway. The peasant learned what many of us never understand. Every obstacle presents an opportunity to improve our condition. Eye on the prize. Think what you could do. What boulder you could remove. You could smile at your teachers, like my high school English teacher that I hated. Even if they are having a bad day. It might not make you feel better, but it could make them feel better. LOL. Yeah, I'm not too old for this either, and one day, one of my students told me, after I was sharing a bad day, you need a hug. And you know what? I let him hug me. Now that might be TMI, but I felt better because someone did something. It may not be a pot of gold, but doing things changes things. Repeat that. Doing things changes things. Eye on the prize. Now let's talk about the mental part of PMS, our attitude. It could get in the way sometimes. This story involves a brother and his sister. Many years ago, when a friend of mine worked as a volunteer at a hospital, he got to know a little girl named Liz, who was suffering from a rare and serious disease. Her only chance of recovery appeared to be a blood transfusion from her 5-year-old brother, who had miraculously survived the same disease and had developed the antibodies needed to combat the illness. The doctor explained the situation to her little brother and asked the little boy if he would be willing to give his blood to his sister. I saw him hesitate for only a moment before taking a deep breath and saying, "Yes, I'll do it if it will save Liz." As the transfusion progressed, he lay in bed next to his sister and smiled, seeing the color returning to her cheeks. Then his face grew pale and his smile faded. He looked up at the doctor and asked with a trembling voice, "Will I start to die right away?" Being young, the little boy had misunderstood the doctor. He thought he was going to have to give his sister all of his blood in order to save her. Sometimes attitude is everything. Sometimes it's all we have. Be careful how you use it, when you use it, and why. The person sitting next to you. Learn their name. Promise to call them to wish them a good day. That's easy, and something you can do to change the world. Eye on the prize. And everyone knows what's next, spirituality. That to me has to do with service, giving back. Realizing, as Newton described in his third law of motion, everything has an equal and opposite reaction. When I think of spirituality, I elevate it above religion. Pierre Chardin tells us we are not human beings on a spiritual journey, but rather spiritual beings on a human journey. Part of that journey involves not only realizing we are here to serve, but also to validate others for their service. Today, you're being validated, not only for what you have accomplished, but what you are going to accomplish. Never forget the importance of your education and achieving your degree. Your degree is your prize.